Taking its time today. Hi, everybody. This is Joanne Eisen with Reach the Unlimited here for another week of a show that I'm very excited to have. Sorry, I have some people outside my window. I should have closed my window. Anyway, I am so excited today to have Becky with me today. Again, a reminder that the book, The Last Breath, is out, and I will get this straight. And so she has her copy. I have my copy. And Becky is also a co-author in here. And we were talking. So what I do when I have one of the authors on is I read the story, so I know what is going on, which I'm reading the stories anyway, because it's amazing to read what everybody had written. But Becky said my story was very similar. So Becky, could you introduce yourself? Tell everybody a little about yourself, and then we'll get into the story.
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Great. So my name's Becky Hesseltine, and I am so in love with this book as well. I'm having some, let's see here, having some audio difficulty.
Uh-oh.
1 second.
Hey, this is a live show. It happens. Like people running down the driveway yelling. Distracting me. Are you good? I can't hear you. Whatever you did, you untook yourself from. Oh, you're muted. Hit the microphone button. There you go.
Yay. Thank you. Yay. I think Spirit is really excited about this book because all of a sudden my earphones started getting crazy. Just kidding.
Funny.
But yes, I'm really excited about this book, and being an author is just such an honor, and it's such an honor to work with you, Joanne, and just have this time together to talk about it. And I'm also a medium and intuitive healer, and I went through my own mediumship journey, landing me in where I'm at now. And that journey is powerful, and it leads to a lot of wisdom and healing, not only for others that we get to share it with, but for ourselves. And I know that this book is just so amazing in that way, because that bits of wisdom and that support is there for the readers as well. So
it is, and all the readers have different stories that are very, all the authors have different stories in the book, and they're all very different, but similar, which is really a cool situation because you learn from each one of them. But the interesting thing that we were talking about earlier is your story has a lot of similarities to my upbringing, because my father was an alcoholic. And it was miserable growing up with an alcoholic. Can you talk a little bit about your relationship with him before we go into the real truth of the story?
Sure. So my father was an alcoholic at a young age, and never admitted he had a problem with it. But my mom and him divorced when I was 1 year old, and I spent most of my life with my mom, and then sometimes I'd spend it with my dad, and with his maybe for a week or sometimes even 2 weeks with him, and he started his own family with my stepmom, and I have a half sister that share the same father. And so anyway, he was in and out of my life whenever he was available to be in my life. And so having that was really challenging because I didn't know any different. And he it's hard because you want your father to show up on all of the special occasions, and you have all of that. Why didn't he show up for me? Or, you don't understand when you're a child, and you don't understand when you're an adult as well. So
the universe, a little bit more, but not a whole lot more.
Right. So the universe really supported me with coming to acceptance with my father and knowing that that it wasn't because of me. It was something with him,
Right.
and so I'm able to understand that. And when you move to the spirit world, that healing just expedited tremendously.
And that's the story that I have as well, where, when you're a kid, you don't understand what your parents are doing and what's going on in the dynamics. All you know that you're either scared. In fact, it's funny. This morning, I was even thinking about certain times when I was a child and whatever craziness was going on. It didn't really matter what was going on. I know what I felt like, and I felt scared. I felt like, I was alone. And where do you go when your parents are crazy, right?
Right,
And
right.
so you grow through. And one of the reasons that hi, Marcia. One of the reasons I wanted to talk about that is just, we're not alone in this. A lot of people experience that. But I know for me, when I started getting older, I had a real hate for my dad. I don't know if you experienced that, but I had a real hate for him. And it wasn't until years later that I started developing somewhat of a relationship with him, in which helped me some, but I still didn't understand it. And that's the hard part, I think, when you're a kid and you're going through life and you don't understand, what the dynamics are and what's going on. How did you react to the situation with your father emotionally? If you want to share that, you don't have to share that. I'm
Sure,
sorry.
sure. And I feel this really relates to a lot of people. If you had an alcoholic parent,
Mm-hmm.
or just a parent was not available for you.
Right.
But for me and my father, he would be incredibly jovial and grandiose and excited, and had stories and would sing and be exciting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then he had this other side to him that would be
Mhm.
really I like a lot of yelling, and there was fighting that I would witness, and we would hide. So it
Mhm.
was like something, and I never wanted to make him upset. And so I learned, in order to not make him upset or angry at myself or anybody, I just would be quiet. So I learned,
Mhm.
when I'm quiet, nobody gets hurt and nobody gets upset, and just to, you know so that was what I learned. I was scared. I was scared
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
um uh, uh make anybody upset.
Mhm.
So
And I did the same thing. I would learn not to speak my voice, not to speak in any way, because it would cause problems that I didn't really want to deal with, and which stuck with me for many years. Did you find that as well, that stuck with you as you went through your young adult life? You're still young, though.
absolutely, absolutely, it's something that I continue to work on. And then also, uh, I never knew I was going to be a medium
Mhm.
growing up. I didn't even know what that was.
Mhm.
But just to be like, I have a voice and it needs to be heard, and I have the nudging within to express myself, and that's been a big unfoldment. and and I feel that as time passed, that nudging, it gets to you, and you do have
Mhm.
to start sharing.
I agree with you. And I never thought for a minute I would go into medium. It wasn't even a thought of mine, or wasn't even something I desired to do. I wasn't like, no, not even happening. You all do that. I'm not doing it. And I agree with you. I think it's that, it's a very healing, very, very healing process that we go through. And so you experienced a similar situation that I did after your father had passed, and being able, and I'm sure as you would do practicing and sitting in the power and meditation, that your father would be very helpful and communicative with you. Is that the case?
Yes, and I could share a story with you if you'd
Yes.
like, what
Please.
happened. So after my father and I knew he was going to pass. He had cancer,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
and it was really beautiful. I was able to be there with him and hold his hand as he passed, which was
Aw.
really, really special. And leading up
Mhm.
to his passing, I was able to do a lot of healing with myself and
Mhm.
forgiveness around him. And I've also was able to get a glimpse um, into his alcoholism and knowing that
Mhm.
he was never going to get sober. And it was so
Mhm.
beyond his ability to get sober. So,
Mhm.
and I realized that, and I accepted that, and I did my own healing around it. And so I was able to show up greatly as he was passing. And and because he wasn't around when I needed him as as, you know, my whole life, after he passed, like, there was this part of me, I really wanted him close. And this is before I knew I was a medium. This is before
Mhm.
all this unfolded. But I wanted him close, and I could feel him. And I was having a hard time with his passing and everything building up from all the years of suppression from
Mhm.
that. But anyway, I had and our inner homes reflect our outer homes, and I was having trouble with my outer home and feeling too much feelings, which that was very familiar for me.
Mhm.
I had a woman come to my house to clear it, and she was like, "Okay, this room feels good, but there's something in the closet. What's in this closet?" And I'm like, "Oh, oh yeah, it's my dad's ashes. I have his ashes in my closet." And and she's like, "Why are they in your closet?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know where else to put them, and I just want them with me." And I had attachment, big attachment. And then and she's like, "You got to release these can't just stay in your closet." And so I I knew where I needed to scatter them. Like, I had that knowing with my dad, where when to do it. And the next, I think it was that day, that afternoon, I went and scattered all of his ashes where he wanted me to scatter them. And I was afraid that once I scattered them, that he would be gone. I wouldn't be able to sense him anymore. Um,
Yeah.
but the opposite, it was so the opposite. And it was
Mhm.
very healing of scattering his ashes. And then it's because of his passing that I am where I'm at today with my mediumship. It's a big story.
It is a big story. And I don't think you're alone on that.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
think we all feel, we don't want to let go of our parents, no matter what kind of parents they were. They're our parents, so we don't want to let go of them.
Mhm.
But you also learned a valuable lesson from that. What was your valuable lesson?
My valuable lesson is that uh, they don't die. They don't die. And I was afraid that if I let go of the ashes, that he would die again, like he would leave me
Mhm.
again. And this whole abandonment issue that I have
Mhm.
around
Mhm.
my father,
Mhm.
that's just a physical limiting belief, because we're in the
Mhm.
physical form. And
Mhm.
but the fact is that they don't leave you. They love you. That love never dies,
Yeah.
and they're always with us. Um and he comes through, as you know, with our practicing and everything. He
Mhm.
comes through often. Um and he's the reason why I wrote this story. It was I I thought I needed to write a different story, and it kept on coming back to that same story. And
Uh-huh.
there's a I'll I mean, I could share a little bit about that too.
Sure.
Um, so I originally had this story in mind, chapter 23,
Mhm.
Spirit of Escalaire. And then my husband kind of was like, "Oh, but there's other stories for you to share. You should share a different story." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I, wrote so many other stories, and
Mhm.
Allison, the publisher, was like, "No, that's not it. This is not it." And then I was like, okay, after writing and writing and writing, and it wasn't quite right, I was like, I should do that original story, that original one that I wanted to write.
Yeah.
And I started flushing it out and beefing it back up. And I looked at the date, because that specific date, it was exactly a year. It was June 11th, 2020.
Wow.
I was rewriting it, and I'm like, so it was meant to be. So, long story short, our loved ones never die, and they're there to just completely support us and work with us, like our stories unfold. And so
you get me so excited. I'm like, oh, well, we got to talk more about that, but there's something else I want to talk about too. And I don't know which direction to go, but you're right. It's like so exciting because we have this truth that we're the ones that are in the illusion. We're the one that is in the play. We're the ones that are in really kind of a different state of being or thinking. It's not our loved ones that passed. And yet we have that turned around as physical people, that they're going to be gone or we've lost them. You know, all these feelings of abandonment and sadness, which we do because we're physical people. I get that. But it's them that really get to experience life with us, because they are in the real world, or in the real form that you never leave from, that you will always exist in. You read my story, which I wrote a part of that about my mom's thinking about when you die, you're gone. In the conversation, you had something to say to that.
Right. When I was reading that part in your story, I was like, yes, that's totally how I was raised as well. And it was that, how did you put it? You put it like in a waiting room, or like like it's yeah. And I'm like, Mom, no, there's something else. But she couldn't go there with me. She didn't know what to say to that. But yeah, and so you're around these adults that whatever they say is truth.
Yes, absolutely.
But then inside you're like, something's not right. So.
Hi, Sharon. We lost Marilyn. She's off to do her mediumship practice. I'm so excited and proud of her. But you have a story which I love, to prove that our loved ones will work with us in physical form even. Can you tell that story? You know the one I'm talking about.
Our loved ones will work with us in physical form. The story that I wrote?
Yes. Yeah. The part of the story, yeah.
Yes. So what happened was, I am now moving through all this. I am a medium, and I was working with a client, and I wrote this in the story. And her father came through, and it's so fun because our fathers are definitely orchestrating all of this. But her father came through. And I'm just sharing about the story. And he told me, my client's father in spirit, hey, you need to expand your inner library, build your vocabulary, because I was getting stuck on how to articulate an emotion. And I was like, oh, I should. I will. And then I told my client this, and she's like, oh, he would totally do that. This is so funny. My dad giving you all this advice and stuff. And I'm like, oh, that's good advice. And so the next few days go on, and I still have that in my mind, and I had the dictionary.com app on my smartphone, and I decided to add in the notifications, or maybe I downloaded the app. I can't remember, but I just so I can have, because they have the word of the day. Right. And I go the next day to yoga, because I do my 8:30 in the morning yoga. And I go and just put all my stuff on my passenger side seat. And then on my phone, it pops up the word of the day. And it's Esprit d'Escalier, which in direct translation means the spirit of the staircase. But what's interesting and meaningful for me is that Escalier was my dad's last name, my maiden name. And spirit means spirit. And so I read Spirit of Escalier, which is my dad. So it's like crazy. I saw it and I was just like stunned. But I got this notification and it's Spirit of Escalier. And it's like, oh. And it was June 11th, 2019. You could go on dictionary.com and see it right there. The definition and the origin and all that. And I go in and I read about the definition. And the definition, I could read it to you. I can't remember off the top of my head. Here we go. Let's see. But it was just incredibly fitting for my father and just undeniable. So a spirit d'escalier, or escalier in French, is a noun, and dictionary.com says it's a perfect comeback or witty remark that one frustratingly comes up with only when the moment for doing so has passed. So I read that and I'm like, whoa. And then it gets better. The origin, from French philosopher and encyclopedist Denis Diderot, who stated in one of his essays that, quote, a sensitive man like me, entirely overcome by the objection made against him, loses his head and can only recover his wits at the bottom of the staircase. That is, after he has left the gathering. And I was like, whoa, what a message.
You're not kidding.
From an alcoholic father. But I know that this message is for everybody. It's for everybody. Mm-hmm. That's why he wanted it in this book. Mm-hmm. And that's why none of the other stories I wrote was the right story, because that's the message he wants to share with all of us, our loved ones in spirit. Like I said in the book, he lost his head from alcohol abuse, and he was only able to gather his wits after he left this gathering. And it said it right in the definition and the origin, and it was incredibly healing. And this story is co-authored with my father as well, because he orchestrated all of that, and for all of us to really receive that understanding that they do recover their wits after they leave this gathering, and they do see themselves, and it comes through and through again through our mediumship work, that they acknowledge their role in your life, and whether it be a positive or not so positive, but they acknowledge themselves, and that brings such great healing. So
it really does. I think one of the things that I've learned through mediumship is that when you're pulling somebody through, they're coming through as you would know them. That doesn't mean that's who they are. And I think we get stuck on that because we're a soul, right? But we choose to come into this world to play out a role in a certain format, basically. But when we go back home, we're still the soul that we are, which is it's like as me as a parent or a mother, or as a wife, or as a business owner, or as a friend, or as a medium, we're all different things, right? We always hear that when you're doing the communicator, like personality or relationships, there are many things in their relationship will change their personality in many different formats. And that's what we have to look at a soul. They're not that person that was here with you. They're more than that. And you're more than that. We are all more than that. And I think we don't really understand that all the time.
Right. Yeah, that's a really, really good point. And, and we're so different than when the person we were when we were in high school, for example. And it's like, if you could relive high school knowing what you know now, what would you do differently?
Yes, exactly.
it's kind of like our evolution. We evolve, and
Right.
and then when we let go of the physical and we're in spirit, there's a huge evolution there with our
Yeah.
souls.
Yes. But I was thinking when you were talking about that is how many people say, oh, people never change. They never change. But we're always changing. We're always evolving to something new. Doesn't mean that we're changing maybe some core parts of our personality, or maybe we've got habits that are so deep that it's hard for us to shake them or whatever that is. But as a person, we're always evolving. You're not the same person now that you were 20 years ago because you've had all that life experience. And I think that's the way that we are as a soul too, is we're always evolving into something better, like you said.
Mm-hmm. And I feel that we evolve when big events happen in our life that forces us to look at those things and forces us to, like you said, we're living, we're breathing, we're here, we're living our life. And this, when big events happen, we're forced to look at our life in a new perspective, especially when we lose somebody we love. It changes us. And I think that it's a courageous act to move in your own healing process. And
it is. But it's something to remember too that when we're going through our situations in life, our loved ones on the other side are helping us, and they're usually helping us in that format of what we would know, because everything is energy, and we are familiar with certain energies and unfamiliar with others. So they work with us in a way that is familiar, that you would know. So if you feel like you're having a hard time or there's something going on in your life, your loved ones will come and help you through that. And if you pay attention to it, you may be able to pick up that it's somebody that you actually, like a father or a mother or grandparent or an uncle or an aunt. I think that we may not emphatically determine that, but from our gut, we would kind of know, wouldn't you think?
Yeah. It brings up an experience that I had with my father. So after he passed, and this is kind of a vulnerable share, but I feel that people can relate. But it was like a cascade of everything that I endured throughout my life, a lot of victimhood. And I went to a really dark place, and it was really like one of my rock bottoms, if you will. And when I was there, I had to make a choice. Am I going to continue my life, or do I choose to not? It was a choice. And in the midst of that, I felt my father, and I knew that he felt this way. And I knew that he had such a lack of self-worth, and just as if there's like zero self-worth, zero expression of self-love. And that I felt that because I felt like I inherited that from him. And in that dark place of where I was at, I felt my father, and I knew that that was his stuff. And I realized that I am going to move forward. But like he was there, and it's like that parallel happened, and then I chose to keep moving forward, and then he has been supporting me ever since. And so much unfolded after that. I started dedicating myself to my yoga meditation practice, and all of these things started unfolding, and I quit my corporate career, and I embraced my sensitivity because they were bombarding me, and learned to not be afraid. And I know that he was there to support that. And then understood I was a medium, and understood, wow, this is what I need to do with my life. But going back to what you mentioned, it's like, yes, they see you, they see those depths, and they understand you because they've been there themselves.
Yeah.
And they want to help you, they want to support you, and just allowing your heart and the armor around your heart to fall and to receive that love and to receive that support, and knowing that they know you, they're with you, and they're there to support you.
And they do remember that they were there too, as well. They experience those highs and those lows and how to get around them and what they learned from them. And they're seeing it from a different perspective than we're seeing from here. They're seeing it from the truth.
Yes. And yeah, because they see you, and they, like you said, they understand, they acknowledge that within themselves, and there to support you. And then, like what you said in your story, it's like this is school. This is like your playground. Like, go out and just do your thing. And, like there's a lightness to it, really. And a simplicity.
We don't always keep that lightness.
No.
Like, I was talking to you before about my father and the fact that he was an alcoholic because he wasn't living his dreams. He wasn't living the life that he wanted to live. He didn't have, and that wasn't the reason for, right? It was because he used that as a crutch not to as well. So he didn't really, I think, be the full potential that he could have been because he was an alcoholic. But then the other is true as well, right? He was an alcoholic, so he didn't have to do those things as well. So a lot of times when we have addictions or avoidances, I've been really on the avoidance. I don't know about you lately. I don't know if this is a thing, but I've been on this avoidance thing. So I'm noticing when there's something I don't want to do, how many times I will chase a squirrel, like go off in this direction or that. And then now what I do to myself is I kind of chuckle and say, oh, you're avoiding now. I'm like, yeah, I am avoiding. So how about we go back and do what I'm supposed to be doing or need to be doing right now? But I think that was what really directed my dad, because he didn't really have the self-respect and the self-worth, like you were talking about, to be able to do what he really wanted to do. And, you also mentioned limiting beliefs. And I think for him, he had really made this limiting belief in his head that he couldn't do it because he had, and you could put the long list of whatever we all put on our list, right, of why we're not going to do what we need to do. But that's why he did it, is because he had limited himself to the I can't. Instead of finding the I can, he stayed in the I can't.
So it sounded like you were able to have a dialogue with your father around his drinking and his addiction.
Yeah, I've had a couple. Well, like you, we have these family members that like to come through and chat with us a lot.
Yes.
And give us different perspectives of their life. But yes, I do sit in meditation and try to really understand it, because I have similar personality to him. And I learn from his being here, and I learn from him being on the other side as well. And I can see that what he was here, he is not on the other side. He is not that. So now I think when I first started communicating with him, he was a little more depressed, a little more kind of downtrodden, kind of personality. Now when I interact with him, he's nothing like that, because he doesn't have to be that way anymore, because I can see who he really is as a soul.
Yes.
Did you find that? Did you feel that as well?
Yes. Going back to that story of the my friend who did the house clearing and went into the room and saw the ashes. She didn't know anything about my father, but she felt my father, and she broke down crying, and she just said, he is so sorry. And he just like, so sorry, and just loves you. And like all of this flood of emotion, she had no idea what she was walking into coming into my house. But yes, it was a flood of apologies and acknowledgement. And I don't think that our loved ones in spirit are so sad in spirit. I think they're just acknowledging the fullness of the impact. But it doesn't mean that they're sad in spirit. It just means that they're acknowledging this fullness and impact. And that was coming through with her. And that was incredibly touching for me. And so So
You
but
know,
now when he comes through, it's more funny.
yeah. And that's important for people to know, because when you go to a medium and you're connecting with a loved one, they're going to tell you in a way that's important for you to heal what you need to hear. And it's not necessarily, it could be what you remember of them, but that's only what they are showing for your healing. Because when they come and communicate with us, it's not because they just have nothing else to do. It's that they're a part of our lives and a part of our growth and a part of our evolving. And so they're helping us to finish out this life that we're living here and having so much fun doing. Yes, we are. We are having fun doing it, but they're helping us to get through, because we're in this heavy environment right now of, the physical and the laborsome parts of being a physical person, so we can learn.
Right. And I think that's really important for people to know when they are working with a medium, that their loved one isn't like that all the time. They're just giving evidence, so you have that knowing that this is your loved one. And that it's a really great point to make. And they're not like that. They use whatever they need to use, so you have a knowing that this is your loved one.
Because they're very intelligent. And we as souls are very intelligent. And we take on this body, and sometimes we are and sometimes we're not. But that's what we're here for.
Yeah, I look at it as it's this stream of intelligence, and you can connect into that, and very, very easily, if you're available for it, and to connect into that intelligence. And it's and for those that are listening, it's not far away. We're all part of this all together, and just allowing yourself to be in flow with it.
Yeah.
Into it. Yeah, I like that.
Well, it's true, because I think that as people, we have this agenda in our head of what we think life should be, or how we think we should be living our life, or looking out and seeing how everybody, comparing ourselves, looking out and seeing how everybody else is living our life. But that takes you away from, I think, your gut instinct of what you're here for, when we're looking externally outside of what it is that we're here to do, which is still a part of our learning and our lessons, for sure. It's never wrong. But when you sit in the stillness and you're connecting with your loved ones on the other side, they're going to help you to be able to go through this life, and to be able to go through the life, I think, path that you're meant to live. And I don't think we do that enough, connecting with our loved ones on the other side and trusting that they're going to help us along our path, or asking them to help us to take the path that we're meant to take.
I agree. And I remember being in that moment several times, so many times, being like, is this what life is supposed to be like? I feel like I'm in this rat race. Like, I feel like it's just so routine. And then life got real lifey. And then now I'm doing this, and I haven't gone back to that. Like, I feel very in alignment, and I'm so grateful for that. And I feel that so many people are ready for that. They're wanting it. But having that willingness to embark on that unknown journey of what's on the other side of the unknown, on the other side of what their heart's calling is to do, and to hear it, and to be available for it, and to listen to it, and to feel supported and held by the spirit world and your loved ones, to embark on the journey.
And that's not easy to do, because we like to be comfortable. We like the familiar. And it's very uncomfortable to be in the uncomfort zone. I was with a friend of mine one time, and she said, I think we should have a yes day. And I'm like, what the hell? This came from
Yes, ma'am.
Sex and the City, I think it was. It's one of some movie. Yeah, I think it was Sex and the City, where they had a yes day. so you have to say yes to everything. Of course, it's not yes to like, something dangerous or something like that, but you had to say yes to something. And I remember thinking how much that I stopped myself from doing things out of whatever. You put the name there. It's so many things that we stop ourselves from doing because we're afraid. And I thought that it was the best experience I'd ever had to just say yes to everything. Yes to everything that came in front of our path. We had a blast doing it. And I think that stuck with me. And that's a part of why I do some of the things I do. I mean, I still don't just yes to everything. I do weigh it out, but I will more times than not just go, yes, do it. It's on my mind. I'm uncomfortable with it. It makes me crazy, but I'm going to do it because I need to experience that. And it's really, I don't know, I liked it. I like it so far.
That's awesome. So can you share an example of like the breadcrumbs that it has led?
Well, like doing the live shows was one of those things where I just said, I'm just going to do it. How is it going to turn out? I have no idea. I'm scared to death. I've never done one. I don't like being in front of people. I get tongue-tied when I'm in a group of people and I don't know what to say because I'm too self-conscious. And anybody who knows me knows I can't shut up. So when I'm getting tongue-tied, it's because there's something going on. And so I just called a friend and said, I'm just going to do it. And then I did something the past couple weeks where it was like, I just said yes and did it. And it was a crazy thing to do. Not dangerous, but it was crazy. I can't remember what it was. So I'm just getting more used to when I'm feeling uncomfortable, but I got that feeling in me where it's like, I think it would be a good thing, but I'm not sure, but I know I'm not going to get hurt. It's not dangerous. I'm not jeopardizing anybody. It's not stupid. It's just something that's outside of my comfort zone. Then I'm going to jump for it because it makes me have to kind of recalibrate like what's important to me or, what are my goals or what are my fears and where are they all playing out? And, how does this make me feel and what can I learn? And I've learned a lot from doing that. Sometimes I do it and it's like, wow, that was really stupid. And most of the time I do it though, and I was like, well, that was really cool. I like that. I'm gonna have to do it again. Do you ever do that?
Yeah, I feel this whole mediumship journey is like that. Oh, yeah, even when you're connecting with spirit, it's like you get a piece and you don't know what you're so far removed from
right.
these strangers, and so you trust, you share your piece and then you trust you'll receive another piece of information and then you receive another and you share, you use your voice even though you have and then with Andy Bing, he mentioned you won't know the full story until the story is completed. Yeah. And it's like, wow, that's such wise wisdom there, because it's like, okay, I'm just going to trust the process, share the next piece and let go of the outcome, share the next piece and understanding and allowing yourself the experience. And then in the end is your story, And it's like, with mediumship, it's definitely been that. And then the nudges, saying yes to those nudges.
Nudges, yes.
Yeah. And knowing, okay, I'm going to follow through on that nudge. And so I did something similar. I knew I needed to do lead meditations. And so a year ago, I decided to do that. And so I had a meditation group and I led a meditation every Monday. And I've been doing that for the past year, every Monday, leading a meditation. And the breadcrumbs led to doing something like this, because I too was too afraid to share my voice or even to hear my own voice would be like,
I hear you.
So to be able to share, keep expressing and knowing that the universe is supporting that. And and imagine if we all said yes to those loving nudges.
It's fear, though. It's fear that keeps us from doing it. And I was there. I didn't want to do anything. You know, I would sit in my little corner and stay there and be happy in the little like sanctuary of nothingness that I had, because really, what do you have in the nothingness? And, but it was safe for me because I knew where my boundaries were. I knew what I believed. I knew everybody was safe. I knew the direction we were going. It was okay for me. You know, it's like, just being stuck in a bubble. It wasn't really living life. And a lot of people are afraid of it because, and it all comes from that, having that security and having that confidence in yourself that you're going to be okay, because you're not going to make stupid choices. It's not like, you know, you're hearing this voice that says, jump off the roof. It's about doing things that are going to better your life and listening to those things. And then when you do that first little small step, then you keep doing more and more and more until you really start. And that's you walking into your path. That's you living your life because you're listening and you're doing the desire that your soul wants to learn and live through. But that's scary to do, especially when you're not used to it. Or you, like in my family, we grew up with restrictions. You know, there was these boundaries. You didn't cross these boundaries. And I've crossed all of them, and I'm the black sheep of the family, and I'm okay with that. They don't talk to me anymore, and that's fine with me. But I'm living the life that I want to live. I'm living what I know to be truth. And I think when you have that help from the other side, it only makes it that much better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And also acknowledging what are the payoffs to not living your truth. And and then just noticing those things. And when we're able to look at ourselves honestly, we can letting those triggers dissipate. They like disintegrate once we look at them. And we're able to be like, okay, the payoff of, you know, if I were to have stuck with my corporate job and been in my routine, the payoff would have been, I don't have to get brave. I don't have to, you know, like do all these things that are uncomfortable. But then the discomfort of life ends up being that comfort, which is, and then you get into that like, no, this isn't how I want to be living life. I didn't envision myself living life like this. And so like, okay, what are those payoffs? All right. And then just allowing yourself to blossom and having that willingness. That's, I think this is, we're on to something.
I think so. It's not easy because you have to go through a whole lot of work to do it, but it's certainly a way, because what you do on the other side is you get into addictions, you get into avoidances, you get into depression, you get into, you know, self-sabotaging, and those are not good things either. So either way, you've got to do something. So you might as well try to live the best life you possibly can live. Doesn't mean that we do it perfectly or that we're going to jump for every opportunity. You know, like even with mediumship, it was something that I just had no desire to ever do. It was just not even something that was slightly in my scheme of even thinking. And now that I'm doing it, I still do have to pinch myself. Like, how does this work? Are you kidding me? How does this work? Because you go into, like you said, you go into a reading and you're like, is anything going to come? Is this going to happen? Am I going to be crazy? I mean, you just go through these moments of, okay, but you have to surrender and just allow to the best and highest good to come forward. And then, I don't know if people understand this. If you're not a medium, the medium is reading from their personal Rolodex of information to relate to the sitter, the person who you're reading for, to what the truth of their loved one is. And that's what's, I think, the most crazy thing about when we do a reading and we're accurately getting the person that we're reading for, or the communicator or the loved one that person is wanting to connect to, that we could come up with this whole story.
Right.
That's accurate.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And it's a divine orchestration because
Yeah.
the spirit knows which medium their loved one needs to see because of their repertoire of information that they hold within themselves, so they can impress upon that those pieces of information for the medium to share. And it's that healing journey. The more that we individuals move into our healing journey, that wisdom and that information and that knowledge expands. And I feel that if you're a medium or if you're not a medium, you're able to connect fully to others and to humanity, and allowing our emotions to connect us all, and to have compassion and care for each other. So it is fascinating how this all works.
It really is. I just had the craziest experience. I was with somebody else and we did a reading for somebody, and we were tandeming, right? We were both reading for this person. And it was really interesting because I brought through this person's mother, and the person I was reading with brought through the father. And it was specifically that way because they both had a different take on helping this person we were reading for, and how to help this person through what she was going through. And it was really cool because we both were seeing the same picture, per se, like we both had the same energy that was going on, but getting both sides of the story. It was really, I mean, really seriously, when stuff like that happens, you're just like blown away.
Yeah.
If you're with another person that's connecting to the same situation with the same memory. It was like, really? It just
in different perspectives. That's amazing.
It was the coolest experience, I have to say.
That is amazing. It's it always just blows my mind what happens. You never know what's going to happen, and it's also with their possibilities. You know, allowing yourself to experience all the possibilities. To connect with your loved one in spirit, and knowing that it's limitless. And I love the name of your podcast, you know, Reach the Unlimited. Like it's all the possibilities. And
it is.
And I am so grateful for mediumship, because there's been so much healing that I've been able to receive from it, and to pass that on.
It's funny. My mom just called me a couple days ago, and she was telling me a whole story. It's not really important, but in talking with her, it's like she's still in that time period where my father was here. And I've moved on from that time period because I've interacted with him on the other side. So I have a much different relationship now with him than what I had when he was here. And so when I talk to somebody who has that old way of thinking, or what his physicalness was when he was here, I really have to, almost like you go into a time warp where you go whoop back into the past to, oh yeah, that's the way that it was then, because I just don't see him that way. It was really crazy, and having this conversation with my mom, and the attitude, and and I was there. I mean, we all have that attitude too, when somebody's hurt you and you can't forgive them, or you're having trouble forgiving them, and you're not really doing that inner work, or you haven't developed that relationship. Either way, whatever the path that you're taking, it's not that she's wrong because she's on her path. But it's really kind of interesting to go back and look at that perspective and see where I was at when I was angry at my dad, and when I was very hateful to my dad.
Yes.
It's very real.
I can relate. And having that gratitude that you are no longer there, but compassion for your mom, because it takes a leap of just a mental leap, because bringing myself back to where I was before
Mhm.
I embarked on this journey, that would be a mental leap. And we, you know, we have those beliefs and they are so stuck in, it feels like
Mhm.
stone. And it takes, like for me, when I first started doing readings for people, my mind would be blown. And I'd be like, whoa, I need to do this again. Like I gotta figure, I want to do this again. And is it for real? And then, oh, I need to do it. It's like, and then finally I got it to be like hardwired, you know? And so now it's like totally commonplace. It's so common, you know? But it takes a lot for our logical minds to
Yeah.
own in, because and I see it with clients. They have a mystical, magical, beautiful experience, and then and I want them to record it, like record this so you can read it.
Yeah.
Because our logical mind will just jump right in there.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, I have a willingness to receive the fullness of the experience and allow yourself to have your mind be blown and your heart open to receive a new reality of connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was doing a recording. I'm going to do a series. So I'm doing some recordings on this series that I'm going to do. And so I was doing this recording earlier this afternoon. And one of my friends that had passed away, she actually came into the recording through me. I was like, wait a minute. I mean, it was so natural. It wasn't like she possessed me. They don't possess us. But she was putting information, because I work with her, I knew her energy, and she was telling me this stuff. So I was like, well, okay. That's how commonplace it could be.
Yeah.
It just becomes a normal part of your day.
Right. Yeah. So that's great. So you're doing some recording of messages?
Yeah. No, I'm not doing messages. I have a background in nutrition and health and wellness. And so it's something I haven't really done in a long time because this is more of my life, but it's also a very important part of our balance in life. And it's something I've had on my radar to do, and I just keep procrastinating on it. And I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday who was telling me that she needs to write a book. And if she's hearing this, write your book. And I was thinking, there's so many things that I've been wanting to do, but I don't have time, is what I tell myself. I don't have time because I have so many other things to do. And I thought, why am I not doing this? I have this information. And not only did I start from this physical world, it's so important to have the spiritual part of it with the physical. That's balance. And that's what the series is going to be about, balancing the two. Because a lot of what I learned when I was going through all of my education for years and years and years, because I really wanted to be a naturopath, was it's all from a fear base. It's all from continuing to stay alive in this physical form. What is the epitome of what people are trying to do now? Well, they always have been in human form, is to stay alive as long as they can. When really this is just like, going for a change of a car, like I'm going to change my Lexus into a newer version or something. I don't know. It seems trite, I know, but really that's what it's about. This is our temporary vehicle to get through life. Our real home is on the other side. And so I think having that balance between living a life that's balanced with food and nutrition and exercise, and also joy and happiness and fulfillment, because if you don't have those, then you're going to be over on one side or the other to an extreme, and then you're going to be going into addiction type stuff. So anyway, that's what I'm doing.
Beautiful. Sounds like beautiful, impactful work. Yeah. Allowing your vehicle to be as healthy as possible and take you far.
Exactly. That is the goal. So is there any last words that you want to leave with people or want them to remember or to take note of?
Yes. So just to share again about the last breath and the story my dad shared his message, chapter 23, and like he said, he recovered his wits after he left this gathering, and I feel that this is a call to action for us to recover our wits now and take action, get brave.
Yeah.
Live the life that your heart wants you to live, and know that your loved ones in spirit are there holding you and supporting you and loving you throughout that journey. And know that you have us to support you as well in that journey too.
Yes,
And
you do.
yeah.
If you have the book, Becky's information is in her chapter of the book. And how can people get a hold of you, Becky?
BeckyHesseltine.com. Feel free to go onto my website and get in touch there, or Facebook. I'm on Facebook as well. I guess just search Becky Hesseltine. You'll find me.
Okay. Awesome.
And thank you so much, Joanne. This is so special to share this book together and this time. And I love working with you.
Oh, thank you. It's been such a pleasure. You're always so fun to talk to. It's so easy to talk to. So I appreciate you coming and sharing your wisdom with everybody. And thank you, everybody, for watching. And if you have any questions, please put it in the chat. I will get back to that. And let us know if you like this video. And thank you for all that you shared with us today. It has been such a beautiful help and inspiration.
Thank you. Thanks for all that you do.
All right, everybody, take care, and I'll see you next week. Bye.